Hello and welcome to the Secretariat. You're watching the Global Capsule, the weekly roundup of world affairs. I'm joined by Sushma, senior journalist, columnist, and consulting editor to the Secretariat. Well, Sushma, let's start with the obvious. Trump and tariff, and it's
Absolutely.
and 25% plus penalties for India is something that was not being, our policymakers had not foreseen this, and they were not really expecting this. How do you really see this situation?
I don't think anybody had foreseen this. This was quite a bolt from the blue for everyone. But there are several things that we must take into account. Number one is, of course, it's August now, and the new tariffs should have kicked in.
Not just for India, but all countries,
Yes,
all the other economies.
yes.
Yeah.
So the tariffs were to have kicked in. So to some extent, I think India should have been prepared for the fact that we will have to suffer or have to bear at least 15 to 20% tariff, because nothing less than that has been imposed by the US now on other countries. So 15 to 20%, I think, is a given. Now, what has been announced, the second thing, of course, is that India has to accustom itself to the fact that it's not between 15 to 20%, it is somewhat higher, around 25%. That is, of course, a little higher than for other Asian countries like Vietnam or Indonesia, which have got, I think, 19 or 20%.
That's right.
And but I think it is something that if we are continuing to have negotiations, and apparently we are supposed to have a full-fledged bilateral trade treaty by September or October, then perhaps some of these wrinkles, as you can call it, can be ironed out. So maybe it's not, such a disastrous thing as everybody is talking about.
In fact, it is lesser than what was initially levied on India. It was 26% when...
Exactly. That was high.
Yeah, so it's actually lesser than what was earlier levied.
Yes, exactly.
So that way it's lesser, but at the same time, the expectation was that it's going to be much lower than other countries like Indonesia and other countries.
Absolutely. And also, of course, we have not taken into account what Mr. Trump has mentioned, that is penalty. That, we're going to levy 25% plus penalty. Now, no number has been given to that penalty. So that leaves exporters as well as, the Ministry of Commerce in a state of limbo, as it were. And I think the Commerce Ministry has rightly put out a statement saying that, we are monitoring the situation and we are reading the statement very carefully, and we will take into account India's best interests while arriving at any agreement. I think that's all one can say, because everything right now is pretty uncertain. I think, Maua, I think what's really going to happen is that you're going to have some changes in these numbers. Now, we don't know whether it's going to be higher or lower, but I think you are going to have some changes in these numbers if, as has been planned, an American delegation is going to be coming here in the third week of August, and they're going to be negotiating the bilateral trade treaty. There are going to be changes. There are going to be some alterations. So we really have to wait for that.
Also, one of the things which is being talked about is this, that, this could be a pressure tactic from the US administration, because the bilateral trade agreement talk is on. And there are issues which have come up, especially in sectors, agriculture, dairy, and they want more access to these sectors, whereas India is still not really prepared to open it up. Now, do you think this is also a kind of a pressure tactic? And, this is some kind of an arm twisting, if I may say. And, Indian policymakers will probably have to take that into account?
Yes, we can't forget the fact that Trump is always described as a deal maker. For him, everything is very transactional. And if you remember that in the case of other countries, and I think it was Indonesia probably, where he had initially said some 30%, and now it's been brought down. And in other countries also, he had talked about very high tariffs. In the case of China, he had said 100%, and now we're down to about 30%. So there's been a lot of toing and froing as far as Trump is concerned, and he does throw out these very high numbers, and then after negotiation, which he thinks is suitable for him or acceptable to him, he brings down the numbers. So definitely it is a tactic. But Mahua, as you and I both know, for India, whether it's this government or any government, the agriculture and dairy sectors are something that there's no way that they can afford to provide market access. We have millions of subsistence farmers. We can't allow them to be, their livelihoods to be affected. And the last, one more thing, of course, is genetically modified foods. We are not in favor of that. So that's another area. So I think it will be a pressure tactic. Whether the US wants us to buy more oil, more defense equipment, it could be planes, or in the kind of investment that they want from India. Something is there in the deal that's going to be...
Like you said, it's very, very uncertain. Nobody knows what exactly it's going to be. The finer print, nobody knows what it is. Everything is in a nebulous kind of a state. Now, Sushma, also coming to, of course, Trump himself said that, Indian economy, of course, he said Russian and Indian economies are dead economies.
Yes.
And at the same time, IMF has now come up with a projection, and it has raised India's growth forecast basically from what it had earlier projected. It was 6.2. From 6.2, it has gone up to 6.4.
Yes.
How do you read this situation?
No, it's very interesting. I mean, just at a time when, as you rightly said, Trump is saying both Russia and India are dead economies. I mean, India's growth rate is being listed as probably the fastest growing in the world, at 6.4 for 2025 and 6.4 also for 2026. And one of the reasons that the IMF has given for this better, this improvement in the growth rate is the fact that the impact of these tariffs, of these American tariffs, has not been as much as had been expected. And what has happened in the case of India, and it has happened globally also, that you've had a lot of Indian exports being front-loaded. Now, front-loaded means that they are being sent in advance. A lot of them have been sent before the tariff barriers actually kick in, before the new tariffs kick in. So there's been a sudden spurt in exports, and I think it's not just for India, it's for a whole lot of countries. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to beat the deadline and export as much as they can. So this is one factor. The other factor, of course, is that the situation, the geopolitical situation in the world has not had that much of an impact on the Indian economy as had been expected, even though the IMF does say that the external environment is an issue of concern.
And that would be the case with all countries, I would imagine. I mean, the external conditions would apply to most economies in the world, not just India.
Exactly.
Now coming to Trump's cozying up with Pakistan. We read in the newspapers that, the deal is already in place, Pakistan, US-Pakistan trade deal. But again, nobody knows what exactly the deal is, how much is the tariff, what are the sectors which have been brought under the tariff, what are the sectors which have not been impacted. Both US and Pakistan governments are saying the deal is in place and it's a great situation for both countries. Now, what do you have to say on that?
Well, I really don't think that we should worry too much about Pakistan, because Pakistan is not our competitor in the American market.
And if I may interrupt, also Trump said that, oil reserves would be sort of discovered in Pakistan, and who knows, India might have to import oil from Pakistan. So
that's interesting. But both things, of course, if Pakistan finds oil, well, I think good for
the region.
Good for the region.
Absolutely.
And I think good for Pakistan, because it's been such a basket case as an economy. It's had to get IMF loan umpteen times over the years. And, it's barely keeping itself afloat. So, and as far as I was just about to say that, we are not facing competition from Pakistani exports. We are facing competition from Vietnam, from Cambodia, from Indonesia. These are the countries which we are worried about. And if there's a great deal between US and Pakistan, well, so be it. It's good for them.
And also, one needs to understand that oil explorations won't happen in a jiffy. I mean, they take years, they take decades.
It takes decades.
Decades.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So, well, Sushma, thank you for your insights. And let's see how things pan out. It's August now, and we'll have to see how the tariff game really plays out.
I think the saga will continue.
Yes,
for
and
some
it's
time.
not just India, but the whole world. The uncertainty has only started or risen. So we'll have to wait and watch. Thank you for watching. See you next week.